Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast. If you're here again, thank you for sharing this journey with me. And if this is your first time listening, I'm so grateful that the universe has led you here. Today, we're diving into one of the most life changing yet deeply personal aspects of healing and self discovery: shadow work. As a Reiki master, life coach, and a psychic healer, I focus deeply on the area of shadow work because I've seen firsthand how powerful it is in unlocking personal growth, emotional healing, and spiritual transformation. Shadow work is not just about healing old wounds, it's about reclaiming your wholeness and stepping into your true power. This is not an easy journey, but it is one of the most transformative things you can do for yourself. Shadow work is about confronting the hidden parts of yourself, the fears, wounds, suppressed emotions, and conditioned patterns that are shaping your thoughts, behaviors, and relationships. It is about healing, integrating, and ultimately freeing yourself from the subconscious cycles that keep you stuck. By the end of this episode, you will understand what shadow work truly is, the different types of shadow work, how long the shadow work journey takes, the best methods to begin shadow work in your own life, and how shadow work can completely transform you. If this episode resonates with you, please subscribe, like, and share with anyone who needs to hear this message. And don't forget to follow me on TikTok for spiritual insights, guidance, and healing practices. Your support helps this community grow, and I truly appreciate it. Now, take a deep breath, center yourself, and let's dive into the world of your shadow self. What is exactly shadow work? The term shadow work comes from the teachings of Carl Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist who introduced the concept of the shadow self, the unconscious part of ourselves that holds all the aspects we have rejected, suppressed, or been conditioned to hide. But let me be clear. Your shadow is not just the dark parts of you. It's anything about yourself that you were taught was unacceptable or unworthy. It includes your fears, repressed emotion, wounds, and limiting beliefs. But it also includes your unexpressed gifts, desires, and personal power. So why do you have a shadow, and why is shadow work so important? As children, we learn what behaviors are good or bad based on how our caregivers and society react to us. If you expressed sadness, but were told to stop crying or toughen up, you might have learned to suppress your emotions. If you were naturally loud and expressive, but were constantly told to be quiet, you may have buried that vibrant part of yourself. Think of your subconscious like a house. The rooms you live in represent the parts of yourself you accept. But the basement, dark and locked away, holds all the parts you've rejected. Shadow work is a process turning on the light in that basement, exploring what's there, and deciding what you want to reclaim. Ignoring the shadow is like ignoring a leaky roof. Sooner or later, the damage will spread. But when we face our shadows, we take control of our own healing and growth. Listen to this analogy. Imagine you're carrying a backpack filled with heavy rocks. Some of these rocks represent painful childhood memories. Others are the fears and insecurities you picked up over time. Some are emotions you never processed, like guilt, anger, or shame. Now, because this backpack is invisible, you've been carrying this weight without realizing it. It's affecting your energy, your relationships, your ability to feel joy. Shadow work is like taking off the backpack, sitting down with each rock, and deciding what you no longer need to carry. By doing shadow work, you break free from repeating toxic cycles, release all wounds and emotional baggage, step into your power and authenticity, heal generational patterns and inner child wounds, develop emotional intelligence and self awareness. In short, shadow work is about reclaiming the parts of yourself that you once abandoned. It's becoming whole. Now you may ask, but how does shadow even develop? Think of a child who is unnaturally expressive, playful, and uninhibited. They dance in public without fear. They cry when they're upset. They laugh loudly when they're happy. But at some point, this child starts receiving messages about what is acceptable and what is not. For example, boys don't cry, girls should be polite, not loud, don't be selfish, always put others first. Every time a child is shamed, criticized, or invalidated for expressing a part of themselves, they internalize the belief that this part of them is wrong. This is where the shadow begins to form. The child starts to push down the parts of themselves that are not accepted by family, society, or culture. They hide these traits away, learning to behave in a way that brings approval and love. For example, if a child is naturally creative but grows up in an environment where artistic expression is dismissed as impractical, they may bury their creativity and convince themselves they are not artistic. Also, if a child was shamed for crying or expressing sadness, they might learn to suppress their emotions, growing into an adult who struggles to be vulnerable or express their feelings. Another example, if a child was taught that anger is bad, they might bury their frustration deep within them. But as an adult, that anger transforms into passive aggressiveness, self sabotage, or random emotional outbursts. As we grow, the shadow becomes more complex, holding all the aspects of ourselves we were conditioned to reject. Now let's talk about the different types of shadow work. First one is emotional. Imagine emotions as a river. Ideally, emotions should flow freely. Joy, sadness, anger, excitement. But when we are told to hold it in, or not to be too emotional, it's like placing a dam in that river. Over time, the pressure builds, and one of two things happens. One, the dam eventually bursts, leading to explosive reactions, breakdowns, or emotional outbursts. Or two, the water stagnates, becoming a breeding ground for stress, anxiety, and suppressed trauma. Emotional shadow work is about releasing the blocked energy behind those suppressed feelings. It's allowing yourself to feel, process, and let go in a way that doesn't control you. For example, if you've spent years avoiding conflict, you might think you're just a peaceful person. But in reality, you might be suppressing anger. Shadow work could involve journaling about past moments where you wanted to speak up but didn't, and allowing yourself to finally express those feelings. The second one is the inner child. Think of your inner child as a ghost from the past, still lingering inside you, waiting to be acknowledged. When you ignore your inner child's pain, it doesn't disappear. It simply influences your present behaviors in ways you don't realize. For example, if as a child you felt unseen or ignored, your adult self might constantly seek validation in relationships, afraid of being abandoned. Healing your inner child is about becoming the parent your younger self needed. It's about speaking to that child within you with love, compassion, and understanding. I'll give you a practical exercise. I need you to stop everything you're doing, sit down, and try placing your hand on your heart. Now close your eyes and imagine your younger self in front of you. Ask them, "What do you need from me?" And allow their response to guide you. The third one is the ego. Imagine you are a sculptor shaping a statue of yourself. Every time someone praises a part of you, you chisel that part beautifully. But every time someone rejects a part of you, you cover it with stone, hiding it. Over time, you become a statue instead of your true self. Ego shadow work is about chipping away at that stone to reveal your authentic self. If you build an identity around being strong and independent, you might resist asking for help, even when you need it. Shadow work would involve allowing yourself to be vulnerable, recognizing that strength also includes receiving support. Fourth is about relationships. Relationships are mirrors. They reflect back the parts of ourselves that we either love or struggle with. Every time you're triggered by someone, ask yourself, what is this revealing about me? For example, if you constantly attract emotionally unavailable partners, it might be reflecting your own fear of intimacy, a part of you that fears being fully seen and loved. So the next time someone upsets you, instead of blaming them, ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me about myself? And last type is ancestral shadow work. Imagine that every person in your family before you has walked through a dense forest. Every time a path is formed, a path of beliefs, trauma, and survival patterns. You have been walking the same path, but shadow work allows you to step off the trail and create a new way forward. For example, if your family has a history of emotional repression, you might struggle with expressing your needs. Ancestral shadow work means recognizing this pattern and choosing to break the cycle. Your shadow is not your enemy, but it is your greatest teacher. The biggest misconception about shadow work is that it's not about fighting or erasing your shadow, but about the process of exploring and integrating the hidden parts of yourself, the fears, wounds, suppressed emotions, and unhealed traumas that shape your life in ways you may not even realize. It is the first step towards true self-love, as it allows you to embrace every part of yourself with understanding, compassion, and acceptance. Imagine your shadow self as an abandoned part of you, locked away in a hidden room of your mind. Every time you ignore your true feelings, suppress an experience, or avoid facing a painful truth, you are locking another piece of yourself in that room. Over time, this locked room fills with unprocessed emotions, limiting beliefs, and hidden truths. And because these suppressed parts never disappear, they start whispering from behind the door. They show up as anxiety, self-sabotage, toxic relationship patterns, and emotional triggers. Shadow work is not about destroying the shadow. It's about opening the door, sitting with what you find inside, and finally offering it understanding, healing, and integration. Again, when you ignore your shadow, it doesn't just disappear. It controls you from the background like a hidden program running in your mind. It does influences your relationships. Ask yourself, are you attracted to emotionally unavailable people? Do you push love away because you fear getting hurt? Your shadow may be repeating old wounds. It also influences your self-worth. Do you downplay your talents? Do you feel like an imposter in your own success? Your shadow may still be holding onto childhood conditioning that told you you're not good enough. It also triggers you. Ever had a strong emotional reaction to something seemingly small? Just like your shadow being activated, bringing up old wounds. And it also may influence fears and avoidance patterns, the things you avoid most: deep conversations, confrontation, intimacy, or taking risks, are often connected to unprocessed parts of your shadow. Think of it like a puppet master. When you are unaware of it, it pulls the strings behind the scenes, shaping your actions, choices, and emotions without you even realizing it. But when you do shadow work, you become aware of the strings. You take back control, break free from the unconscious patterns, and start living more authentically. So, how do you know when it's time to do shadow work? Shadow work is something everyone can benefit from, but there are clear signs that indicate it's time to start this journey right now. Many of us go through life on autopilot, repeating the same patterns, attracting the same situations, and wondering why things never seem to change. Shadow work reveals the hidden forces, shaping your experiences, allowing you to break unconscious cycles and truly transforms. Here are some strong indicators that your shadow is calling for your attention. Number 1, you struggle with self-sabotage. You set a goal, whether if it's starting a business, going to the gym, or pursuing a passion, but somehow you always find a way to procrastinate, get distracted, or quit. You feel motivated at first, but then something inside you pulls the brakes, leaving you stuck in a cycle of frustration. What's happening here? Deep down, your shadow may hold fear of failure, a belief that you are not good enough, or even a fear of success, because stepping into your full potential means leaving behind familiar comfort zones. Ask yourself, what is the deeper fear behind my procrastination? When did I first start doubting my abilities? And what am I afraid will happen if I actually succeed? Number 2, you keep attracting toxic relationships. No matter how many times you tell yourself you want a healthy, loving relationship, you keep ending up with emotionally unavailable partners. You may feel unseen, unappreciated, or constantly seeking validation, yet the cycle keeps repeating. What's happening? Your shadow may be replaying abandonment wounds from childhood. Or you might have been conditioned to believe that love equals struggle. If you witnessed unstable relationships growing up, part of you may have internalized that dysfunctional as normal. Ask yourself, what do my past relationships have in common? What emotional needs were never met when I was younger? And what do I truly believe about love and relationships? Number 3, you experience strong emotional triggers. A simple comment from someone sends you into a spiral of anger, anxiety, or sadness. Certain people, situations, or even words make you react intensely, and later you wonder why your reaction was so strong. What's happening? Emotional triggers often indicate unhealed wounds. Your shadow stores past pain, and when something in the present reminds it of an old wound, it reacts as if the past is happening again right now. Ask yourself, what memory or experience does this remind me of? Am I reacting to the present situation? or to something unresolved from my past? What emotion am I actually feeling beneath the surface? Triggers are like alarm bells. They are not the enemy. They are signals guiding you toward what still needs healing. Number 4, you've done the affirmations, you set the goals, you worked on your mindset, but somehow you keep hitting the same wall. You feel stuck in your own growth. No matter how hard you try, something feels blocked, and you can't seem to break through to the next level in your life, career, or relationships. What's happening here? Your shadow holds deeply rooted limiting beliefs that act like invisible walls. You might consciously want growth, but your subconscious might still be holding onto old fears, conditioning, or self-doubt. Ask yourself, what belief is keeping me from leveling up? Do I secretly fear the responsibility that comes with success? And who told me I wasn't capable? And why am I still carrying that voice? This is like a video game. Each time you level up, you face a boss battle. Shadow work helps you recognize the inner boss holding you back, so you can finally defeat it and move forward. Number 5, you have unexplained fears and insecurities. You feel like you're not good enough. No matter how much you accomplish, you fear judgment, rejection, or failure, even when there's no logical reason for it. You overthink, second-guess yourself, or struggle with imposter syndrome. What's happening? Many of these insecurities stem from old wounds, where you felt unheard, unseen, or unworthy. If you were once made to feel not enough, your shadow internalized that belief, even if logically you know it isn't true. Ask yourself, whose voice is in my head telling me I'm not good enough? What childhood experiences made me feel unworthy? And what proof do I have that I am capable and deserving? Number 6, you feel disconnected from your true self. You sense that you are meant for more, but you don't know what that looks like. You feel a pull toward spirituality, healing, or self-discovery, but fear or self-doubt holds you back. You feel disconnected from your intuition, purpose, or authentic self. What's happening here? Your shadow has spent years wearing masks to fit into the world. Over time, these masks become so familiar that you forget who you truly are beneath them. Shadow work helps you peel back the layers and reconnect with your soul's truth. Ask yourself, if I could fully be myself without fear, who would I be? What parts of me have I abandoned to fit in? And what brings me joy that I have been suppressing? It's like a clearing fog from a mirror. The real you has always been there. You just need to remove what's clouding your vision. My final thought here is, think of shadow work as deep cleaning your home. On the surface, everything may look fine, but when you start cleaning, you uncover dust, clutter, and forgotten things buried in the corners. It's messy at first, and you might find things you weren't ready to face. But by the end, you feel lighter, freer, and at peace. The same is true for your inner world. Shadow work removes the emotional clutter, the conditioned beliefs, the hidden wounds, so you can finally step into your full power. Remember this, you cannot heal what you refuse to face. But when you choose to do the work, you reclaim your truth, your strength, and your wholeness. And I'm not saying that it's going to be easy, but it's truly life-changing. The more you understand, accept, and integrate your shadow, the more you step into your full power. But remember, this journey requires compassion towards yourself. Self-love is the key. And that's exactly what we will be diving into in our next episode. If this episode resonated with you, subscribe, like, and share if it was someone who needs to hear it. Follow me on TikTok for more guidance, insights, and spiritual practices. And always remember, the magic is already within you. You are more powerful than you know. Until next time.